We made it. Today is the fourth project in our 4-project bundle-based class. I am glad I'm not going to have to say that mouthful too many more times. All right, so these bundle-based classes are going to be offered every month, and today I'm going to show you a very good technique that you can use on almost any card where your stamp has a good amount of stamping surface. So let's get to this project. All right, here we are with our technique card in our continuing series of the Sweet Citrus Bundle class. This card today, we're going to concentrate on the center of the fruits. That's where the technique comes. You can see in the light that there's varying shades of yellow, and I'm going to show you one easy way to get it and recommend a few others based on what you might have laying around in your craft room. All right, let's get started. So for today's card, we're going to use So Saffron, Delightful, Daffodil Delight, and Crushed Curry. 3 yellows starting from lightest to darkest. And then we're also going to use the embossing folder from the bundle, a cute greeting or two, and some decoration for the inside. The cardstock that we're going to use is going to be our Granny Apple Green. Oops, there's the inside of the card. Our Granny Apple Green measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, and folded, ready to go. The inside of our card is 4 by 5 1/4 basic white. The outside of our card is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 white with a 4 by 5 1/4 Daffodil Delight layered on it. This will get shrunk a little bit because it's going to be embossed. I'm going to run it through the dry embossing folder, which will shrink it up just a little bit more. And then we need a 1 1/4 by 2 1/4 piece of basic white layered on a 1 1/2 by 2 1/2 piece of Granny Apple Green for our greeting. We also are going to bring in that Granny Apple Green stamp pad to create our greeting, just to give a little more contrast, and we'll use this for our leaves as well, which means there is a scrap of white that's going to show up at some point to make our leaves. All right, so let's get started. All right, so off camera, I dry embossed this. You can see it shrunk up just a little bit and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So let's make the coordinating pieces of fruits to go with that. This is where the magic of the technique comes in for this card. All right, I grabbed 2 scraps of white. This one is going to fit the fruit just fine, and we're going to do the technique. And then this one I'll use for the leaves after we're done. But I want to get to the star of the show. That's this piece of cardstock that's going to end up with our fruit. And we're going to go ahead and do the technique while we are stamping that fruit. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use our medium color to make the rind or the outside of the fruit. And that's this. So it's going to make the whole lemon, but it's also going to make the rind of the other 3. And I want it to go this way because that's how the embossing folder is lined up, and it just makes it easier to put it through my machine. So I'm just holding it for a count of 3 to 5, giving it good pressure, especially on that lemon. There we go. Oh, I still like it because your fruit isn't always necessarily completely ripe, but this clearly did not get completely clean because it's got a little bit of green. But we're going to go with it because I'm kind of liking that. Now, I do want to make sure that this one is completely clean. So I'm going to grab my chamois and we're going to give that a good scrub just to make sure that there's no green left on this. Sorry if the camera is shaking. What we're going to do is just flip this over and double check. Nice and clean. Beautiful. All right, now let's get to creating that multiple color. We're going to use daubers today. They're little individual finger sponges. You could use regular stamping sponges, quarter them to save on how much you're using. You could also use blending brushes. Any size will work to make this technique work. Lots of options. So the first thing I'm going to do is ink these up really well, and I'm using the lightest color. And then I'm going to grab a piece of just scratch paper, just some computer paper. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to stamp off. So this is So Saffron, and now it's stamped off so it's really light. Set that back there. I don't need it anymore. So now I have a very light coating of ink, and now I'm going to add some more. So I'm going to take my Daffodil Delight, which is still open here, and my lighter, you can see one's kind of lighter, one's kind of darker, and I'm going to pick up some ink on my dauber, and I'm going to put that around the edge here. And I'm going to do the same for the wedge, not necessarily the middle because I didn't do the middle here. And I'm going to do for this slice around the edge. And then I'm going to take my crushed curry and I'm going to make it a little bit darker in the very center. I'm going to make sure I get a good amount on there so you can really see some contrast. I want them all to kind of match. All right, so there we go. Now, because they set out for a moment or two, I'm gonna huff on them, and then that'll bring a little bit of moisture back from my breath, and we'll stamp. Takes more than one huff when it's a bigger stamp. All right, so now we are going to lay this out. We've talked about in previous videos that you want to line it up so that the top and bottom of the half slice are even with where the rind is, and then the slice is in the center. Ooh, my voice just kind of went. All right. I can already see the lighter and the darker is coming through. There we go. Very cool. All right. So that gives you a lot more texture, a lot more tone. You have differing grades of yellow coming through, and I really love the way this looks. So let's finish this off. I'm gonna close up my ink pad so I don't make a mess. I'm gonna move my daubers to the side. I'm gonna show you how I line this up in the embossing folder with the die, because this is a hybrid embossing folder, so I can do both my embossing and my cutting of these images at once. So I'm just kind of getting it in sort of the right place. Make sure that the Stampin' Up! Logo is showing, and then we slide this in. So I'm gonna hook, holding this with my left hand, I'm right-handed. I'm gonna hook the die where it wants to go, and then I'm gonna put the images lining up with the die and the embossing folder. There we go. All right, and then off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and run this through the embossing machine or the die cutting machine and come right back. Okay, so this has been run through. I'm done with my die. I can slide it back on its magnetic base, and here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna toss that, put the folder back in, and now we can finish getting the rest of the pieces together. So let's grab our Granny Apple Green stamp pad. We don't need any of the yellows anymore. We're gonna grab our leaves and this long skinny scrap, and then we're just gonna stamp a couple of these. All right, there we go. There's 3 leaves, and then I'm gonna die cut these. Okay, now we have all 3 of these. I'm going to clean off my leaves here real quick on my chamois, and then I'll use this block for the greetings. So we're gonna do the thanks on the inside, and on the outside, we're going to do this one, which is sending you a big squeeze. All right, so let's do sending you a big squeeze, because that's going to be in the Granny Apple Green. So if you wondered how I decided that this was 1 1/4 by 2 1/4, I just stamp it on some grid paper and measure it. It's an easy way to do it. You can also, if you are just using scraps, you can just stamp in the corner of a really big scrap, cut it to the size that you want, and then just cut the mat 1/4 inch taller and 1/4 inch wider, and that will work perfectly. So lots of options for creating quick mats for your greetings. All right, so these 2 are good. I'm going to set them there. I don't want to lose that. And then I'm going to do the thank you on the inside of the card. Inside greeting is the smaller one. And for this, I'm going to do the Daffodil Delight again. And then we'll take our lighter dauber and we'll also add a little bit of shading to this. Let's move our leaves over. So this is a technique that would work on any kind of a stamp that has a bit of surface to it. So you just want to make sure that you've got enough surface to add the multiple colors of ink and get the effect that you want. I guess I'm gonna add some flowers too. We're just gonna do these ones. I'm actually just gonna put it on the other side of the thank you, just to save some time. Because I'm just filling in, so I don't need to look at it and make it perfect. All right, so then we're gonna clean both of these off, and then we can put them back in the box when we're done. Oh, I'm getting very inky here. All right, so the lighter dauber is going to go into the ink, and this time we're just gonna, I'm gonna start in the middle of a big flower because I know it's gonna make kind of a dot when it goes down. I'm gonna start here, and then we'll make our way out. You see what I mean? It gets a little heavy there. Then I'm gonna start here and we'll finish all around. There's just no way avoiding, the most ink is gonna come off when you set it down. But since it ended up in the middle of the flowers, I think that's pretty nice. Then I'm just gonna kind of tap the middle of these flowers. And I am happy with that. I know you're anxious to see how this card's going to come together, but if you wouldn't mind doing me a favor, click the like button so you can help out a small YouTube channel like mine. So remember, when you have those little sponges, you can do shading like we just did. There's all sorts of things that you can do with the daubers. They also are wonderful for making backgrounds, and you can even leave a comment below if there are more things, more ways that you would like to see using these daubers. All right, let's assemble our card. So I am going to use liquid glue for the inside of the card. The only thing I'm not going to use the liquid glue for is the fruit, because that I'm going to use Stampin' Dimensionals so that it sets up. All right, and then this one goes here, just like that. Just wanted to double check that I didn't grab the wrong one before we get to assembling. So now I can put my fruit, which this is kind of upside down, but that's okay. Let's turn it around on the card. All right. So when a folder has this much detail and embossing to it, you want to make sure you get a good coat of glue so that all the edges go down. And that's another reason why I like to use an extra layer when I'm doing this, to make sure that it really stays nice on the card. All right, this is better because this is the way the embossing folder goes, because I can see our 4 main characters right here. And I love putting the white behind the yellow because I think it just gives the yellow a little bit of pop. I see it kind of lifted a little bit here. I'm just going to kind of tuck it in. Actually, I'll show you a trick. I need a little piece of paper. Okay, this is more than I need, but what you can do is just put a little bit of glue right here, and then I'm going to slide it under. So I'm pushing down on the white layer, sliding it in, and then I'm going to push down on the yellow layer and pull it back out. And that's going to wipe the glue, or some of the glue, onto the yellow layer and stick it down. So that's one way to kind of fill gaps really easy. So this piece of scrap I'll use for building dimension on another card. It's definitely not a wasted scrap. Okay, so let's finish this off. Actually, I kind of fibbed a little. We're gonna do glue for these two as well. And then we are going to, as I said, do dimensionals for the other fruit, for all the fruit. Let's get this to the middle, and then we're going to get it up in the upper right corner. So I hope you guys have enjoyed the idea of these 4 cards. This is the last in the series. This is the technique card. So when I launch the class later on this week, it will be with a different bundle. There will be a different technique, a different fold, a different layout for the quick card, and certainly a different 3D item. But you will have all of those elements in the card. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you. I hope this is an adventure that you're looking forward to going on with me. This class will be offered worldwide because there is no product associated with it. Of course, if you need a demonstrator, you are welcome to use my shop to order, but it is not required for you to get this class. It is just an online class with videos for you to learn from and tutorials for you to keep on your computer so that you can recreate these cards anytime you'd like to. right, just like we did in some of the other projects, I'm just putting my leaves onto the fruit, and then I'm adding the dimensionals. So the dimensional is not only going to give lift to the fruit, but it's also going to hold the leaf down on the fruit. All right, we're going to go this way. Actually, I'm going to go up here with this one, and then we'll come down with the lemon and put the slice right there. So this time this definitely needs to go here. Pre-planning and then it flips over. That does not work. All right, and that's way too long. I'm gonna take my paper snips because it's only the top of the leaf that's gonna show. So I'm gonna cut right on the white. I want these to be a little bit closer. So this way, the leaves can come right out from here. There, that's much better. See how much closer I can get them when I do that? So I cut them in half, and then I'm just gonna make sure that this dimensional is on both of them to keep them secure. Pull off the release paper, and then they'll stay on the card. All right, so we're gonna tuck this one right here, and then we're gonna put our slice up here, and I'm not gonna put any leaves with that. I'm just gonna put a dimensional at the top so it kind of puffs up like the rest, but I'm gonna be able to tuck it under here with no trouble at all. Let's move it just a little bit. I didn't push it down too hard. There we go. All right, so this card looks much different than this one, but that's what happens when you're just playing with creating. So a couple of fun things to share with you. You can, if you're using this particular bundle, you can cut the leaves in half and get them anywhere that you'd like. We talked about how to measure and make this layer. You have the dauber technique in order to add shading to any solid stamp. And we also talked about highlighting a layer using either black, in this case white, but you could also use a black, a navy, or early espresso, a dark brown, to pop up the higher layer on the card. And that's a wrap. That is our 4th project in our 4-project class, and I am so excited that you got to see all of them. If you missed any of them, I did make a playlist. It's gonna start linking right here, and you can click on it and watch the other 3 projects. But before you dip out, if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment below, let me know if you like the idea of this bundle-based class, and be sure to subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell so you know next time I post a new video.